this is Phil from Race City Retro, and thanks for clicking on this video. Today we're going to talk about something so cool and near and dear to my heart. The legend of gold MOROSO valve covers. What is it about gold MOROSO valve covers? You see them at a swap meet, they stop you dead in your tracks. When the hood gets lifted and the engine's wearing gold MOROSOs, it immediately takes you back to the good old days. For most of us, it's the 80s. For some of us, it may be a little earlier than that. Today, I want to dig into the history of gold MOROSO valve covers and find out why something so popular back in the day disappeared, never to be offered again. The only way you're getting gold MOROSO valve covers today is paying a lot of money for an NOS set. And stick around to the end of this video because that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to show you guys one of my NOS pairs of gold MOROSO valve covers. Have your paper towels ready to wipe up the drool. These things are beautiful. So let's get started on our history of the legend of gold MOROSO valve covers. Dick MOROSO was an oil pan builder. He built some amazing race pans. He started in 1968. By the time the early 70s rolled around, he was expanding his product line to include valve covers for the racer. These were not intended for street use. If you look at the earliest pairs of gold MOROSO valve covers, some people say they came out in 72, 73, 74, all within that time frame. They're easily identifiable because they do not have any oil fill holes or PCV holes in them. You had to do that stuff yourself. The majority of small block Chevys, which was the only ones offered at the time, had a oil filler tube at the front of the intake, so you didn't really have a need for it unless you were running some type of crankcase ventilation system. MOROSO quickly expanded the valve cover line to include big block Chevy, which in its day, it was one of the most popular engines in drag racing. They were ran by sportsman racers, professional racers. You see them on pro stock cars. Basically, everything you saw had gold MOROSO valve covers on them. I think they liked the look. And there was a certain aesthetic going on in racing that time where you started to see a lot of gold stuff appearing on cars. Not only was it the valve covers, it was a lot of wheels and a lot of anodizing on other parts as well. The street racers took note of this while hanging out at the drag strips, and just like anything else, it starts at the drag strip and trickles its way onto the street. These valve covers started to appear on street cars, and when it comes to street racing, a street racer likes anything they could save weight on, so it wasn't only the look, it was the fact that these things were paper thin aluminum. They were as light as can be, which worked out great on a street car you were trying to save weight. Street races were a very serious bunch back then. It was nothing like it is on TV today. Everything you did on the street back then was super sneaky, super quiet. You set up your races in the darkness, you raced in the darkness. You didn't go with a big entourage of car carriers and TV cameras and none of that nonsense. Everything was hush hush. And then the cars were very low key and purpose built. And then all of a sudden, things started to get blingy because Pro Street was right around the corner. And that's when it went from street racing to having a fast show car, basically. The gold anodized wheels previously seen on drag cars only were now finding their way onto street cars. Other items such as Hillborn injection and things that you would never dream of running on the street were now spotted everywhere on the street. The early days of Pro Street was basically a very clean, very nicely built drag car that you had plates on and drove around the street. Then it turned more into show cars, more bling than bite. One thing that remained common was gold Morosos were there through it all, whether you were running a drag car, a street car, even kids with 318 Dusters were breaking the piggy bank open to throw a set of gold Morosos on there. I don't know what it was, you just had to have them. It was kind of like man jewelry, that gold. You had to pop your hood and show your gold Morosos off to the world. Other parts manufacturers took note of this gold trend going on and also tried to capitalize on it. There were a lot of street version wheels that were now done in gold plating because you started to see them on cars everywhere, which I love that look. It looks great. I wish they'd bring them back today. You even saw a competitor, Edelbrock, make a gold-plated set of valve covers that looked nothing like a Moroso valve cover. They were more blingy, like fake gold teeth, let's say. But they wanted to try and cash in on the gold rush. I could still remember those late 80s cruise nights going to Deer Park Avenue, Route 231, where gold was everywhere. Now guys were just leaving the hoods off the cars. What used to be the street racer's credo, don't ask me what I'm running, don't ask me this, don't ask me that, how much you want to run for. Now it was like, look at what I'm running, isn't it beautiful? Look how blingy. Cars really became show cars, but they were still fast. You can't say they weren't fast. A lot of guys, they had the looks, but they had the performance to back it up. You would walk into your local speed shop and gold Moroso was everywhere. They had now expanded the line to other engines, and you had a nice selection of things at your speed shop because the show car aspect of these fast cars started to dominate. People wanted their cars to look good, and that may have something to do with that gold blingy, that's like that royalty type look. Gold is money and power, and maybe that's what clicked in a lot of hot rodders' minds. As of the year 2000, gold Moroso valve covers were still available in the 2000 Moroso catalog. By this point, Moroso had also added anodized blue and anodized red, which were really sharp valve covers. I run them on my own 69 Dart. Love the blue, especially on a Mopar, goes real good. And they also at this point had every type of valve cover accessory to back the valve covers up. They also had the matching air cleaners. They had tied down T-bars, whatever you want to call them. They had matching breathers. They had air cleaner wing nuts. They really expanded the line so you could just trick out your engine with every gold thing they offered. And nowadays, finding the accessories is just as hard as finding the valve covers. They sold a ton of these, but you got to remember, most every one of them got used. So you gotta ask yourself, how did this part that had a 25-year run disappear virtually overnight when it was so popular? Why don't they offer them today? Why doesn't Moroso bring them back? And let's talk about that a minute. And this is going to be based on discussions I've had with people that are familiar with what went on with these valve covers many moons ago. Well, not that, at my age, you say the year 2000, it seems like yesterday, but it's 26 years ago, they were still in the Moroso catalog. So what went wrong that sent gold Moroso, red Moroso, blue Moroso valve covers to the scrap pile? Well, to put it bluntly, it was the process they used to anodize these valve covers was very caustic, and I don't mean cost by expense, I mean poisonous, that I guess at the time they were unaware of. There were workers getting very sick from it, and they decided just the best thing to do would be to just do away with the anodizing process. Just like anything else, I'm sure nowadays there's probably a lot better ways to anodize aluminum than there were back then when things were kind of new and people were still learning. And they made an attempt to bring them back powder coated, and it worked out good for them because they could use the steel valve covers instead. So it was a heavier valve cover. And from what I heard, you could also use, if you had any chrome ones with blems, easily sandblast them and powder coat them. They had them in the gold, the red, and the blue. But ironically, the gold was the worst selling one. So they did away with the gold first. And to this day, you could still buy the powder coated red and blue MOROSO steel now, no longer aluminum valve covers from places like Summit and Jegs. But the main thing was the anodizing process, and it was very inconsistent. I remember back in the day selling these things, an air cleaner wouldn't match the valve covers. Sometimes you'd have a valve cover where one would be a little off than the other. The hardware wouldn't match the valve cover, and not that guys were picky, but they started to get picky when they wanted their cars to look good. And you had a very orangey gold air cleaner, and you had those, the brighter, brilliant gold valve covers. It just didn't look right. It was easily detected. The fact that they didn't hold up very well over time, that was just the nature of the beast. These were lightweight aluminum valve covers, never engineered to use on the street. They were for race cars only. They found their way to the street, and the rest is history. To this day, they're one of the most popular valve covers ever put on a car. So sit back. Let me show you something really cool now. All right, so now this is a small block Chevy valve cover I've had for years. And no, this is not one of my Animals ones. I just wanted to show you guys the fact that these things did not hold up good at all. And we talked about that earlier. If anything touches them, they chip, they scratch, they ding, they dent, and if you had these on a race car where you're adjusting valves or something, this is years of use. The anodizing still looks good on this one. You could see they were permatexing the heck out of it, but you could see just the type of abuse this thing took, and it didn't hold up very well, and it's because it's just thin aluminum. That's part of the problem. And like I said earlier, these were never designed for street cars. These were designed for race cars. Guys ran them on the street, and they just didn't hold up very good. Now let's look at one of my NOS ones. Oh, let me grab it over here. Okay. Now this is a pair of Pontiac ones. Look at the difference. These are brand new in the box. Nice. And right away you could see the difference in the colors. Like I talked about earlier, they had like an orangey gold, they had a golden gold, and then they had this other one that almost maybe combination of two. It was reddish, it was sometimes greeny, so there was a lot of inconsistency in the anodizing process. But look at that. Whoa, these are almost too nice to run. I'm almost scared to run them because I know, you change the spark and you drop a wrench, boing, it's going to leave a big dent. But I just wanted to show you, there's a brand new one. There's one that was used and abused. And look at the difference in the two. Very gold, more orangey. Yeah, pretty neat, huh? But you can see why people made a big deal. Let me pull this back a little about these things, because they were just really neat, really, really neat stuff. And I want to thank you guys for watching today. And if you like this video, please give us a like and subscribe. Lots more cool stuff. We already have a ton of other videos that you're going to dig. Just go to our video section and check out a few others while you're here. And if you dig us, give us a like, give us a subscribe. Check out our website at racecityretro.com. We have over 1,000 automotive products, all kinds of cool stuff. If you swing by there, it is impossible not to buy something. That's how much cool stuff Mainly we're a hot rod t-shirt company, but we make a lot of other products as well. Check us out. And once again, thank you guys for coming on this journey with me and going over the legend of the gold MOROSO valve covers.